Hey y'all, today I'm making some delicious white bread, so come along as we get it made. First we're going to start off with 1 cup of whole milk, and then we're going to pour in 1 cup of boiling water. I like to take the temperature on this. We want it to be between 105 and 110 so the yeast can rise properly. Then we're going to drop in our yeast. We're going to go with 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. And on top of that, we're going to add in our sugar. And then we're going to throw in 1/4 cup of melted butter into the mixing bowl while that yeast mixture gets set up. We're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar and then 1/2 cup of milk. We're also going to do a 1/2 tablespoon of salt. And then you're going to add in about 6 to 7 cups of flour. That first bit was 4.5 cups, and then I add in about 2 more cups, so I've got about 6.5 cups total in this. Alright, our yeast mixture is nice and bubbly now, so we're going to go ahead and pour that in. Make sure we get it all out of there, and then lock the lid down and slowly turn on the mixer so we can knead that dough really good. You want to knead it till it's all the way incorporated and kind of tacky like you see here. Alright, once it's pulling away from the sides like that, I like to see how it feels. If it's still a little sticky, I'm good. I don't want it dry. So I make sure it's all incorporated, pull it away from the bottom just to make sure everything feels good. Then I grab another bowl. I like to oil the sides up so it doesn't stick to this bowl at all that I let it rise in. I oil it down really well with some extra virgin olive oil is what I'm using right now. Once the bowl is good and oiled, I plop in that dough. And then we're going to cover it with just a little bit more oil on the top to make sure it's nice and moist so it doesn't dry out while it's rising. Once it's nice and coated, I put it in the oven and I set my oven to proof. If you don't have a proof mode on your oven, it's not a big deal. It just kind of sets it to about 80 degrees. I let it rise for 90 minutes, and once it's done, you can see how big and jiggly it is. We pour it out onto a floured surface, and I'm cutting it in half because this recipe makes 2 loaves. And so it's nice and soft. It's not too firm, but it's not super sticky and sticking to my hands. And so we just roll it out to a nice kind of even square to where it's about 12 by 12. Now I'm pulling the halves into each other and then rolling it onto itself to make the loaf. Next up, you want to butter your loaf pans really well. And then we pop them back into the loaf pans and we let them rise for another 30 minutes on the counter. Alright, they've both been rising now for about 30 minutes and they're going to go into the oven. You can see how much they really grew in those pans from when we put them in there to now. And we're going to put them in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes. I usually like to check it about 5 minutes before just to make sure. At 30 minutes it was perfectly done. I pull it out of the oven and then I like to give it a good coating of butter on top just to keep it nice and moist and get that delicious buttery flavor kind of soaked in there on the top. The other loaf looks perfect as well. Get that one buttered up. And here's the finished look. You can see once that butter gets absorbed, it almost gives it this just delicious glow. They've got a nice little sound to them. They had a great rise, and this bread is so good.